Hey, if you're the type of backpacker that is usually going out only one season out of the 4, or maybe 3 out of the 4 seasons a year, you're definitely missing out on that 4th season. In this video right here, we want to talk a little bit about layering systems and some of the things that are getting tweaked so that we can go into the backcountry in that 4th season. So we're just about to head out on the trail. We're taking a few of the guys here in the office out to test out some more gear, but I just wanted to kind of highlight that. And here on the table, you can kind of see some of these things. This is the stuff I'll be wearing. I've got snowshoes, I've got my trekking poles, make sure you get those snow baskets on there, gloves, and then I've got a jacket out here. And we're gonna dive into the layering specific things a little bit later, but just so that you know, also, my pack weight here has changed a little bit. Typically, I'm running about a 10 base weight with an overall total pack weight of 20 pounds or less when I'm loaded with water and food. But on this particular trip, I'm coming in more at about 15 pounds before water, food, fuel, things like that, and about 22 pounds with 2.5 liters of water. So there definitely are things that can be changed, and you're gonna be adding a little bit of weight, but you can still come in at a really, really lightweight overall system and still have a great time doing this. So join us as we go on to this video. We break down exactly what layering systems we're using, why we're using them, and how you can stay super comfortable when you're out in that 4th season.
Something you'll need to factor in while winter backpacking is that a lot of the roads that you use during the summer or other seasons won't be open in the winter. They won't be plowed. So it may be a little bit harder to find a good place to park before the trailhead, which may mean you need to hike down a road a little bit farther than you had anticipated. So factor that in. If you've got snowshoes, wait as long as you can to put those on. Once you're actually hiking in deep snow, that'll use up a lot more calories, a lot more energy. So
all right, so we just hiked a couple miles in on the snowshoes, and we now have selected a site. What we like about this particular site is we've got good protection from a mountain range right there. We've got the peak in the background. We've got some protection from the trees. So as far as selection now, what we're kind of looking for is an area where there's going to be deep enough snow.
I always take a closed cell foam pad in addition to my air pad, and I keep it right on top of the pack, and so like it's the first thing that I can just lay out. That way I have a dry place to put everything I have, and then I'll just kind of take things out that I think I might need over the next couple hours while I'm setting up my shelter or, you know, foods, things like that. Once my body temperature starts dropping just a little bit to where I'm not sweating, then I'll throw on like a fleece or something that's going to breathe real well. So on the hike in, I went pretty minimal on what I wear. I get really warm, and snowshoeing is pretty high exertion. So I'm just wearing some nylon pants with some of our prototype merino boxers. And then I've got one of our prototype merino hoodies, and then just a wind shirt over that. And then I didn't hike in on these gloves, or with these gloves. I use a much thinner, lightly insulated wind stopper glove. But they're not waterproof, and once I start digging, my hands are getting wet, so I switched to a waterproof, more insulated glove. And then as far as extra layers, I always will bring a fleece because I can work and like exert myself, and it'll breathe and release a lot of that moisture vapor from my body really well. And then I brought a Loft-Tech jacket and a really light rain jacket to put over that. So depending on how warm I am or how cold I am, I can just start layering up. And the idea is have the fleece for breathability, and it's a really high loft fleece, so it is really bulky. And then I can throw the Loft-Tech jacket under that, actually, if I'm getting cold and kind of like not working anymore, more stationary. And between the two of those, that's a lot of warmth. And if If it's not precipitating, I'll just throw the wind jacket over that. If there is any snow or moisture coming down, then I'll put like the little rain jacket over that. And then other than that, I've just got like a merino wool beanie, which I won't really wear until the sun's down and I'm just kind of hanging out by the fire.
Alright, so I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of the layering system that I use when coming out into winter situations. And so I'll start with kind of my outside layers that I've got on right now, what I call my stationary layers. So I've got a down jacket on and I've got down pants on. And when I'm sitting and not moving, this is typically what I like. The down in it just traps a lot of heat. It's lightweight, it works really well. But when I'm moving, because of the coatings and stuff on the fabric, it's not a great option, and getting sweat in it can hurt the effectiveness of the down. So underneath there, and typically what I'm gonna hike in, is my Loft Tech jacket, and kind of show you the layer here. My pants, or that you'll be hearing about shortly, I'm sure. And those are going to be a much better system. They're going to breathe better. If they get wet, they're going to dry really fast and retain warmth. And then also underneath there, I've kind of got dual thermal layers. So I wear a base layer here that is this is a wool. This is something else you'll be hearing from us about, but this wool piece works really well next to skin. The wool is super comfortable next to skin. It's going to pull moisture and evaporate it. It's going to stay warm and wet. And I have the same thing on. The bottoms here is the same type of a wool. So what that allows me to do is basically layer and delayer depending on my activity level and what I'm accomplishing. So yesterday on the way in, you might have seen some B-roll of me wearing this down jacket, which is something I normally don't do, but we were getting some photos. But pretty quickly I was overheating in it. So I actually got down to just hiking in this, and that worked really well, because the last thing you really want to do in snowy conditions is sweat too much and overheat. So I was hiking in just my base layer and my pants. Got to camp and I put on my Loft Tech jacket and the thermals, and then stayed in that most of the night. And then when it got really cold at nighttime and in the morning, I put on my down layers. So it works really well to do that. Again, the big thing I feel like you're looking for when you're doing layering in the winter is to make sure that you're not getting too hot and sweaty at times, and you have a layering system that's going to work for you. I do bring like a waterproof shell, but I try not to use that hardly ever, because that's just going to trap in cold. I've actually had situations where maybe I've hiked in with something like that on, and I'll get a little sweaty, but I don't really feel it. And as soon as I stop, I'm just freezing cold. And I'll sit there for a minute and I'll realize, oh crap, I'm sure that I'm sweaty. So in fact, the last time that happened was just this last November. And so I took off my outer shell and I just had the Loft Tech jacket underneath it. And within minutes, I was way warmer. The moisture was evaporating through the jacket, pushing back out through through the Loft Tech jacket, away from your body heat. And I was warm again. So just be aware of managing that moisture, managing the sweat, and making sure you don't have anything that is not breathable, especially when you're doing physical activity.